What's up, studs? I'm going to go over the hyperextension today, which is an amazing hamstring glute back exercise using one of my clients as an example. If you want to build some meaty hamstrings and a butt you can rest the beer on, I'd highly suggest incorporating these into your workouts. The setup is fairly simple, but there are a few things you want to make sure you do. The first one is to set up the pads low enough that you can get full range of motion without your stomach getting in the way. In the case of my client here, you should lower the pads a good 3 inches so he can lower his torso properly. The second thing to do is to keep your legs straight. But if you find that having them locked is uncomfortable, a slight bend is fine. Thirdly, make sure your feet are planted and you're not on your tippy toes. That will allow you to better contract your hamstrings and glutes. The best place to hold the weight is either going to be like he's doing right now or with the plate hugged to his chest. Generally, the heavier you go, you won't be able to hold it to your chest, so having it in your hands like he has makes more sense. The goal with this exercise is to lower your torso as far as you can while keeping your low back flat. Now, some of you might be flexible enough to essentially lower until you're perpendicular to the floor, but that's not necessary or ideal, since in that position your muscles aren't really loaded. To really target and blast your hamstrings and glutes, keep your upper back and mid back slightly rounded over, which looks terrible, but I promise you it is not bad for your spine. Focus solely on squeezing your butt as hard as you can and driving your hips into the pads. To get the most out of the exercise, you want to keep the load completely in your hamstrings and glutes and not arch your low back at all, or let your hips come off the pads like you see him doing right now. Not only does this take the load off the muscles you're hoping to target, it also takes that load and places it in your low back, which if you've ever injured it, or your back isn't used to it, or you just generally have issues with your back, doing this improperly will potentially aggravate it. As you can see, when I'm doing this, my upper body is kind of curled over the weight, and I'm just focusing on squeezing my butt as hard as I can and pushing my hips into the pads. My body never crosses this line here.